Welcome to Playing the Big, Beautiful Long Game, where entrepreneurship meets spirituality. In this podcast, we explore the intersection of personal fulfillment, spiritual growth, and business success. This podcast delves into the idea that entrepreneurship is not just about profits or growing businesses. It's also about embracing purpose, meaning, and inner growth. Each episode features conversations with entrepreneurs and thought leaders who share their journeys of building businesses that align with their highest values and deepest calling. I'm your host, Debbie Zita. Sit back, relax, and thank you for being here. Welcome, Gary. I am so super grateful to have you here on the podcast. I appreciate your time, your expert, and your knowledge. Can you please let the audience know who you are and what it is that you do?
Hi, Debbie. Thank you for having me first and foremost. My name is Gary Schoeniger. I am interested. I'm an author. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm the founder of a company called the Entrepreneurial Learning Initiative. I'm interested in the underlying values and taken for granted assumptions, the mindset that enables ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things.
Beautiful. Ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things. Gary, can you share with us what is something extraordinary that you have experienced in your own life?
Oh boy. Well, I got this idea like in the early 90s. I'm kind of an underdog myself, and I got this idea that if I could somehow deconstruct the mindset of an everyday entrepreneur, and when I say everyday entrepreneur, I don't mean like the Steve Jobs and the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world or the Richard Bransons of the world. I mean, people who start with nothing and create something. Like, how do they do that? That's always fascinated me. The original question, Debbie, was like, how do underdogs win?
Yeah.
And I started, like, I thought, if, like, wherever you look, there are always people who come from nothing. They don't have any special traits. They don't have access to money. They're not creative geniuses, but they somehow manage to create meaningful and prosperous lives. And I just got this crazy idea that if I could somehow deconstruct what's unique about the way they think and sort of pull it out and show it to people, it could be helpful to people. Because I was kind of living it myself, but I couldn't name it. And so that's a journey I've been on for, almost 35 years. And it's still endlessly fascinating, and it's made an enormous impact on my life. So what I'm trying to say to you, Deb, is like, I've not only studied these everyday entrepreneurs, I am one. Yeah. And I'm saying that to you, like, I'm not trying to be like Tony Robbins. I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'm the successful entrepreneur. Look at me. I can tell you how to be a successful entrepreneur. I'm not that guy. I'm saying I've studied all these ordinary people, and I've pulled out of their stories these common and predictable ways of thinking that anybody can access. But I've also lived it at the same time. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. And I resonated with you immediately because we met in Boston last year at a seminar/conference. Incredible experience, and just incredible people in the room. And you were one of those people that I had that visceral experience of just, I connect with everything you're saying, and I need to speak with you. And then we had these beautiful conversations, and I met your lovely wife as well. And it's so important for me because my own personal journey, which I do often share on the podcast and with my guests, has been immense struggle and adversity. And it's taken me so much learning to sort of pull myself out of what I would say victimization into something that was motivational and inspired. And so for me, I love learning from people. I also, I adore what Steve Jobs has built. I am inspired by Anthony Robbins as well. But I also love the very grounded, there's the restaurant owner, the cafe owner, the waxing lady down the road. I speak to everyone, and I want to find out what's happening. And I haven't shared this with you, but I was inspired during lockdown in Melbourne, Australia, which was pretty horrific for us. We were in lockdown for, I think we had 6 lockdowns. It was kind of just beyond, and people were mentally not coping. Marriages broke down, businesses broke down, people broke down. And I, at that point, was coming out of one of my very dark periods, and I wasn't thinking commercial. I often am not thinking commercial other than in recent years. I was thinking of service. Oh my goodness, people around me are struggling. How can I be of service? What do they need? What do I need? And so I created meditation sessions, and I also started a book, which is, I can get it, it's over there. It's called Redefining Business Success, the Heart-Centered Way. And what I wanted to do was to show people that, it may not be commercially viable just right now because the market is crashing and things are happening and people are passing away and scary things are going on. But if we can find a way to understand our legacy and be of service, we will get through this time. And I think that's probably why I resonate so deeply with you, Gary.
Well, I mean, I think one of the points I just want to double click on here that I've observed from these everyday entrepreneurs, and I've now interviewed, I don't know, 700 or 800 entrepreneurs all over the world. And one of the things that really fascinates me is, broadly speaking, this isn't 100% accurate, but broadly speaking, the ones that succeed are focused on the other. And the ones that fail are focusing on themselves. Mm-hmm. And it's, again, this is why I'm so adamant about mindset. This is a very subtle, unconscious distinction that makes a huge difference. And so here are some examples. Mm-hmm. If you think of, a lot of people say, "Oh, I want to start my own business because I want to make a lot of money. I want to be my own boss. I really like to do X, so I'm going to start a business that does X." Well, that's all about you.
Right.
Does the world give a shit about X?
Yeah.
Maybe, but maybe not. And it's by every once in a while, one of those people will get it right. Mm. But as I've analyzed this over decades, Debbie, it's like that's the formula for failure.
Right.
You're focusing on your own needs.
Yeah.
And look, here's the funny thing about this. We're all guilty of it. It's easy. You're trying to raise a family, pay the bills, blah, 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 blah. It's really easy to just, without realizing it, you're just focused inward.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to suss this out, but the ones that succeed, they're finding a problem first, as you described.
Right.
Right. But let's go back to the spirituality of your 6 identifiers.
You're right.
Right. There's something spiritual about that. Right. We are hard coded to contribute to the tribe.
Yes.
And that's one of the most profound lessons that I've extracted from interviewing hundreds of entrepreneurs. It's super simple. And, I'll tell you this in a hyper masculine sort of a way. A friend of mine is like a retired special forces sniper. Iraq, Afghanistan, has been shot, stabbed, blown up, been in the worst of the worst of the worst. He's probably the most spiritually enlightened human being I know today.
Yeah.
But he told me when he was in the throes of the special forces training, he's a tall, thin guy. And he said he was shivering uncontrollably in the military. I guess they call that jackhammering. And the instructor came over to him and said, "You're jackhammering because you're focused on yourself. And that's how you're going to get your teammates killed. Focus outward and the shivering will go away." And it did.
I have a question for you, which is, do you know the amount of interviewers that were men versus women, or those that identify as men and those that identify as women?
Uh, ba, 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 ba. I don't have the numbers, but I would say it's probably, more or less reflects the general population. Um, and maybe there's a gender bias in there somewhere, but I've interviewed a lot of women entrepreneurs.
The reason I ask you that is I probably have a gender bias because predominantly my world and who I serve is women. And what is
Mm-hmm.
so interesting from my experience is that women are naturally of service, givers, nurturers, connectors. It's part of how we're wired. And what has been,
I
go ahead.
No, I think that's right. I've said that many times. Like, given what I said a few minutes ago, I think empathy is sort of the tip of, like, that's where opportunity recognition comes from. Empathy. And it's not just recognizing the functional dimension of a need. It's not just like, oh, I need my hair cut or I need my lawn mowed. It's recognize the deeper social and emotional dimension of the need.
Yes.
I need to have a relationship with the person that cuts my hair or mows my lawn. I need to have this have to be a non-friction transaction. I can't have somebody with no teeth with their pants on backwards showing up on my house looking like a meth head.
Yeah.
And it's understanding those deeper dimensions of human needs. And women are way better at that than men.
I would have to say I would agree because it's part of how we're wired. It's also been part of how we've been socially conditioned to survive in the world as well. But what's interesting and where I was going with it also was that because I was seeing so many women in that extreme, it felt important for me to also teach them a way to actually focus on themselves because we were so used to being okay with everyone else that
Yeah.
often women actually cut themselves out. And so I love the story that you shared about the gentleman who, probably also through that experience has a bit of PTSD as well, because those experiences are quite horrific and shape the psyche. And women have other experiences where we go through a daily war of parenting, of hormonal challenges, and everything else that we go through as women. So, coming into leadership or entrepreneurial spaces, we've had to really be quite diligent at, again, connecting in with our brand story, our sales strategies, our identity around who we are to claim that just to compensate for the world that we were living in. So, what I would love to say now, I guess I wanted to make sure that the female listeners were hearing that part of it because what I was hearing, Gary, was don't focus on yourself, don't focus on yourself. And I heard that to the point where I literally cut myself off. And it was a dangerous point that I came to.
Okay, so let me clarify. That's a good point, Deb. Let me just back up a half a step. I see entrepreneurship as an altruistic paradox. So I'm not saying, because you're raising a really good point, I'm
Thank you.
not saying ignore your own needs.
And
I'm
I know you're not saying that because I know how you operate as a human from what I've observed. I think I wanted to make sure the listeners, like me 10 years ago, are not getting confused that it's
but I
about, yeah.
think the sweet spot is when you can pursue the things that are interesting to you, things that you're innately good at and capable of becoming good at in ways that are useful to other people, like you will flourish.
Yes.
That's the formula for flourishing. Cutting yourself off, like becoming a lawyer because your parents wanted you to become a lawyer. That's a recipe for suicide or depression or drug addiction.
And we see that in the stats, right? That's the case. And then I think that the flip side to that, if there is a clean flip side, and there's never a clean flip side, but it's again, it's the females that are over giving. And it's I love what you said. I often talk about that sweet spot because we need to be able to filter everything through the experts or podcasts and books and all the information that we get these days. Filter that through the truth of our own being. And that's why I personally work in the space of self-awareness. And I love that. And I want to bring that back to the space that you love, Gary, which is human flourishing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd love to spend some time unpacking, what that means for you and some of the lessons that you've gained over all these years.
Yeah. In my new book, The Entrepreneurial Mindset Advantage, which
Yeah.
I think you have a copy right there. Thank you for the kind plug. One of the things in my observation and my study of everyday entrepreneurs, I stumbled into this idea of self-determination theory,
Mm-hmm.
which two very prominent psychologists, Deci and Ryan, in the 90s. These are the guys that were largely responsible for bringing us out of the dark ages of behaviorism, which is sort of the carrot and stick motivation theories of the last century, right? Do this and you'll get that. Okay, so I'll just make this very simple and not academic-y and nerdy.
Oh, you're welcome to do both. Both is good.
Okay,
Yeah.
what Deci and Ryan are saying is that we have three fundamental psychological needs. They call them nutrients.
Mm.
It's autonomy,
Mm-hmm.
competency, and relatedness. It's a fancy way of saying like we need to fit in, right? Purpose is another easier maybe word. Their words are autonomy, competency, and relatedness. And they're saying that when those three nutrients, those psychological nutrients, are attainable, a human being experiences lifelong growth like self-actualization, psychological well-being throughout their life.
Yeah.
And what's also interesting is they're saying that 2 out of 3 won't cut it. You need all 3. Okay, it's like a stool, it's like a tripod. Like you take one leg out and it starts to get wobbly pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Now, what they're also saying is that in the absence of when these nutrients are not attainable, and I like the way they phrase that, because they're making the onus ambiguous. It's partly the environment, society, and it's partly the individual. It's like, right? It's not clear.
Yeah.
But when these psychological needs are not attainable, we tend to pursue what they call need substitutes.
Okay.
Which further alienate us from our species essence, from our natural growth tendency. So an example
Oh, go ahead. I was just about to ask
no,
you.
I wrote about an example. I mean, an easy example, right? So we buy an expensive car as a proxy for relatedness.
Right.
We don't get any sense that we're making any meaningful contribution to our tribe, to our community. And that car becomes a proxy for that. So you pull up at a red light, your brand new BMW, you feel good about that. But now you've got a $900 a month car payment that keeps you tethered to the job that's unfulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You just get stuck in these ways. And that alienate us from who we're supposed to be.
Yeah, it's
right?
the short-term fix.
it's a short-term fix. I mean, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I've been sober for a long time, but I know, of what I speak,
Yeah.
right?
Thank you for sharing that. That's also a big thing to go through and to share publicly. We appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. But like to get to the point, Deb, I think my theory is that these everyday entrepreneurs unwittingly stumble into that trifecta. And they flourish and they don't even know why. They think they're special sometimes. Other people look at them and think they're special, and it's not. It's just the circumstances within which they're functioning. Work isn't work anymore. Learning isn't a beatdown. It's fun. It's like, whereas I think most people go to jobs they really don't find fulfilling. They collect paychecks and they try to find meaning in all these other ways, most of which are sort of dead ends.
Yeah, I love this, and I love those three concepts that you're sharing from these researchers and the psychologists in the late 90s. I can relate to all three of them because autonomy, yeah, 100% competency. You cannot show up and do your work if you're not competent. And then was it relational? Was that the third one?
Relatedness is the term they use.
Relativeness.
There's a paper, if it's called self-determination theory. I'll send it to you. You can put it in your show notes. It's kind of academic, but it's not super long. It lays it out. The basic idea, Deb, is that human beings are no different than any other organism, in that we're all born with the capacity and the desire to become all that we can become.
Which is part
But
of
we need, just like an acorn needs soil, sunlight, and water to become a mighty oak tree, we need autonomy, competency, and relatedness in order to fully become who we are. And so, in that way, I think the work you're doing and the work I'm doing are very, very closely related. We might be using different
Mm.
language. That's the human flourishing component to it.
Yeah, I love that. I feel for me that the word I often talk about, the way I'm understanding it anyway, is our ecology. So our internal ecology, it's our thoughts and our internal landscape. And then also it's who we're around. Because if we're around, let's say, other entrepreneurs that are motivated, that are inspired, that are, focused on supporting people and also making a profit, then we're going to be moving towards those outcomes. However, if we're focused on, let's say, family members or friends who are still working and look at you and say, which I had this, what do you mean you're not getting a job? What do you mean you're doing? What's this business thing? What's this coaching thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Shrinking, minimizing us. And in actual fact, what they're doing is they are projecting onto us their own insecurities and fears. Why? Because they haven't changed their own experience. They're still in that
Well,
old paradigm.
I think you're right, but there's another framework to look through which to look at that, another lens, um, which is biology. Okay. So you have a group of friends, right? You have a group of friends you hang around with, and all of a sudden you go, I'm going to quit my job and go start a business. That makes You've just disrupted the group dynamic. The group cohesion is now, thrown off. And so, they're either going to convince you that you're nuts and to come back into the group, or you're going to convince them that they're nuts and they should follow you. Or the most likely scenario is like you're just going to like exit from the group.
Yeah.
Right. And that's more or less what happens. That's biology.
Yeah. I
That's
love
like
that way of describing
you're
it.
an antibody. And the scary part, but for like people that are, early in the entrepreneurial journey,
Mm,
that's like the 40 days, 40 nights in the desert. Like,
totally.
because now you're sort of an alien to the people that are familiar to you. And if you haven't yet established a network of other entrepreneurial people, that's a very vulnerable moment in your life. And I'm sure you've experienced it.
I have an ebook actually on my current website, which is soon to be updated. It's all about the ecological check. It's making sure that you're doing that process in a way that I would call heart-centered. So you're still honoring and respecting those people. And I still love my family and my friends that I
Of
grew up with.
course, of
It's just
course.
finding a new way to relate to them and recognizing as I'm, many years on now, that it's exactly what you're talking about. It's not that they don't love me, don't like me. It's I have disrupted the apple cart and it's bringing up their fear because someone that they love and care about is moving in a direction that is different from theirs, and we're no longer walking the same path together.
And I would hesitate to say we're bringing up their own fears. Maybe I would just say we're choosing a different way, and group cohesion requires some modicum of cohesion. It's Deb, it's no different if you have a bunch of single girlfriends and you go off and get married.
Right.
You don't fit into that group anymore. It's
No,
like
it's you're leaving us. Right.
the
Yeah.
common thread is gone,
Right.
right? It's a group dynamic that, but there's another thread here, and I say talk a lot about this. Like, we have to stop thinking about entrepreneurship in terms of like in a binary way. Like, you're either going to go start a business or you're going to be an employee. Like the way the future is, like the way I think about it is, you're either involved in other directed value creation or in self-directed value creation. That's the fundamental difference. So, and again, these are underlying assumptions, deeply held assumptions taken for granted that we're not even aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the way I define entrepreneurship is the self-directed pursuit of opportunity to create value for others.
Beautiful.
Okay. Now you can adopt that at your minimum wage fast food job.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to take the big risks, jump out, invent something, borrow money, put yourself, you don't have to do any of that.
I love that you
It's a
said that because some people's nervous systems cannot manage that. They don't want that story for their life, that experience, but they do want to
some people
apply
just
it.
can't.
Yeah.
Some people, they're by the time they wake up and find out the corporate job isn't satisfying, they're 35, 40 years old, they got a mortgage, they got children. They can't just step away.
Right.
They can't, put themselves, and probably nor should they.
I
But
love
I'm
this is
also,
refreshing because it's not the dive in and leap of faith and trust your intuition. And no, yours is very grounded and
who's always
practical.
saying that? Billionaires.
100%.
Oh, just jump off a
100.
cliff and make a
Yes.
parachute on the way down.
You'll
Yeah,
be
that's really,
fine. No, you
yeah.
probably won't be unless you have a really good plan, you have a savings account, or you have some very wealthy relatives behind you. So I love that
It's
you're saying that.
nonsense.
Yeah, it is
But
nonsense.
but I here's what I've observed in the entrepreneurs. They they preserve the core of what they're already doing. Like, don't quit your day job, don't drop out of school, don't mortgage your house,
Yeah.
but just reappropriate some small modicum of your discretionary thought into figuring out how to make yourself more useful to more humans. Do that on Sunday morning, Friday night, like evenings, weekends, holidays. Try stuff. What gets your heart going? What's exciting? What wakes you up on Sunday morning ready to go? Like, follow that, but follow it in a way that is useful to other humans. People that study like complexity theory will tell you, like, the sweet spot for evolution is right on the edge of stability. Right? It's preserve that core, but if you're not going out and bumping up against the edges of it a little bit, if you're not pushing yourself, trying, it's everywhere in nature, Deb.
Yeah.
It's like nature doesn't make big, bold bets. Nature makes billions of $5 bets. It's trying lots of little things all the time. That's what entrepreneurs do. You can lose $5 again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
And you this learning, this powerful, potent learning experience happens in those $5 experiments. It's not about taking big, bold bets.
Yeah. If we could speak to someone who, is maybe hearing these concepts for the first time
Mm-hmm.
and is curious about, okay, do I start something? Do I place that, that metaphoric bet? Like what is something, and you gave us some answers before around like it's Sunday and connecting with community and things like that. But if we go very practical, what are some examples of what someone listening can do today?
Yeah, that's a good question, Deb. I wrote about this in my book. I wrote a whole chapter about this. Like, undertake an entrepreneurial project of your own. Do it with your spouse, do it with your children, do it with a friend. And it's easier to do that because it's easier to like push yourself outside of your comfort zone with somebody with you. It's harder to just go out and talk to strangers on your own all by yourself. But whatever. But you can think of it as the $5 challenge or the $50 challenge. It looks like this. It's very simple. Back to your question, like somebody who's completely new to the space, what would I say? I'd say find a friend, take $50 and figure out how to make it into $500 in your spare time. No more instruction than that. And when you get to 500, think of it as a game. 500 is level 1. Now try to get to 5,000 in your spare time, right? That's level 2. You get to level 2, try to go to level 3. By the time you've gotten to level 2, your brain is already starting to rewire,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's about, you're starting to develop what psychologists call like the sense-making abilities. Like, you're starting to learn. It's like an indoor cat became an outdoor cat.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're starting to learn how to function in the world where there aren't predetermined pathways, where there aren't professional teachers to tell you exactly what to do, or a boss or a manager to tell you exactly what to do. Your
It
brain
sounds to me,
orients.
sorry, it's the executive functioning part of the brain, the creative thinking part of the brain. It's yeah, which is where you mentioned the neural pathways. You're having to rebuild these new pathways because the indoor cat was comfortable, didn't have to go outside and think about how to navigate that world, that environment, that ecology. Yeah.
It's like sense making, and most of us look here's what people don't think about,
Mm.
right? We are trained from birth to function in managerial systems,
Yes.
and it's like the water we're swimming in. We don't even know we're swimming in it. I have a chapter in the book called The Origins and Evolution of the Managerial Mindset.
Mhm.
And I use the David Foster Wallace analogy where there's 2 fish swimming along one morning and they pass an older fish. And the older fish says, "Good morning, fellows. How's the water?" And the 2 younger fish just keep swimming until one of them looks at the other and says, "What the hell is water?"
I love that you. I think you shared this on the stage in Boston, and I love it so much. Yeah, we don't even know that we're in it.
We're in, and so my point here, Deb, is that we're from the time we're 5 or 6 years old, we find ourselves in school systems where someone else is telling us what to learn and do, when to learn and do it. It's all other directed, and those systems were designed to prepare us to function in other directed work environments.
Mm-hmm.
Like, other directed learning environments are designed to to prepare us for other directed work environments.
Yeah.
So the path has always been laid out for us. The metrics to laid out, what to know, what books to read, blah, 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 blah. And so our sense-making abilities have atrophied. They're
Yeah.
still there. The
Totally.
capabilities are there. They're quite natural.
Lying dormant.
They're
Yeah.
just dormant. Yeah.
It makes me think of the Lego movies. You know, the wake up and you go and you wake and it's all the same. It's breaking out of that system and finding ways to create finding ways to be the indoor cat that moves outdoors, to use your
Yeah,
word.
and do that, but do that in like in a controlled way. It's just
Yeah.
not about. And I talked about this in Boston in a video interview that the desire, the compulsion to do good, to
Mhm.
contribute is very powerful. The desire for autonomy is very powerful, motivating force that can easily lead you astray.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, these are powerful motivational forces that can empower, when harnessed properly, can empower an ordinary person to do extraordinary things. But they also make us very vulnerable to all manner of biases. Like that compulsion is so strong, we can tell ourselves a story that's not grounded in any truth, right? We can convince ourselves that we've got the greatest idea since sliced bread. Like we can just take out $100,000 mortgage against the house and we'll be rich. And that's not the way.
No, and we see and hear these stories, and it's devastating when those sorts of things happen, and they do happen, which is part of why I connect so deeply with what you're sharing. It's the grounded truth of what you and I have both witnessed, and others that have walked similar paths have witnessed, and we want to share with people. Yes, be happy, be excited, be motivated, be fulfilled. These are my words. You but feel free to interject, and at the same time, be controlled, be grounded, be measured in your approach.
So let me just tie this all together in a
Mm,
nice little bundle, if I can.
please.
What I talk about in my book is micro experimenting.
Mm,
That's the $5 bets, the $50 bets, whatever you want to call them, right? Because as I say in the book, it's like the first rule of entrepreneurship is not to fool yourself. And you are the easiest person to fool. Okay, it's kind of like rule number one. So these $5 experiments are designed, like when you turn $5 into 50,
mhm.
the $50 represents scientific evidence of usefulness.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not a fan of business planning at all.
And me neither. And I love that you shared that in Boston as well, because I have a few clients that come to me and say, "Oh, I need to send you my business plan," or "I haven't done my business plan." And my answer is, I don't have a business plan. That's not the process that I personally use to create my own
But there are
business.
very good reasons why you shouldn't write a business plan. It actually is harmful.
I'd love
I
to
mean, there
hear
are,
why.
okay, so there are exceptions to this, which I'll get into in a second. But for the typical entrepreneur, you're looking for evidence of usefulness, right? And the data don't exist. The example I use in my book, way back when I was in my 20s, I started a gutter cleaning business. I strapped a ladder that I borrowed from a friend to the roof of my car. My assumption was that people in a wealthier neighborhood would pay me $100 to clean their gutter. That's maybe $300 or $400 today.
Right.
Okay. And I, by the grace of God, I got a customer on my first day. And that led to another customer. And then people started asking me for all these other things. Can you fix this? Can you do that? And it revealed a whole separate opportunity that turned into a multi-million-dollar business that I would have completely missed if I would have done the traditional write a business plan. How do you analyze the market? How many people are there that'll pay $100 to clean their gutters? The data don't exist.
Right.
So you can make up some bullshit, some demographic stuff that you can show to somebody, and all you're really doing is fooling yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to learn by doing.
Yeah.
Right?
100% agree.
That's
Could not agree more.
the business plan is an artifact of managerial thinking.
And managerial thinking is probably drenched in data. They probably have access to that
Exactly.
the layperson doesn't have for the general population, unless you're an academic in a very specific university.
That's exactly right. I mean, most of the typical entrepreneur starts like a gutter cleaning business. There's no way to like assess. I mean, you can do some assessment, maybe data, but for most of us, the data don't even exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
So look, if you're an expert in this field and you've been in this industry for 20 years and you found a hole in the marketplace or a region where this market's not being served, there's a case to be made for a business plan. There are exceptions. I want to be clear for all the business school guys out there that are going to be hating on me now.
Yes.
Right. But it's like you have to understand the difference. To the business school folks, the attitudes and skills required to discover an opportunity are entirely distinct from the attitudes and skills required to exploit the opportunity.
Can I share a funny story with you? So I was actually enrolled in an MBA. This is probably 3 years ago. And I struggle to study. I love informal study, but I'm one of those people that gets quite severe performance anxiety when there's a certain date or an assignment. And I was really very stressed, and I was still running the business as well, and I'm also a mum too, and I co-parent with a blended family, so there's other complexities there as well. And I was very, very stressed, and business was growing, and I decided I received a very good mark in the first subject. I'm very grateful for. It was a second class honors, and I say that as someone who gets very anxious when she studies. It was a personal, meaningful moment for me, and I had to make this decision of my brain is split in these directions of theory and performance anxiety and expectations versus serving the market that is right here. And so I actually made the decision to take my lovely grade and leave and continue to grow the business because I could see what that was doing, A, to my nervous system. And also, if I'm being really fair, other than the ego of the second class honors, it wasn't really adding, sorry, anyone who's doing an MBA right now, but it wasn't really adding for me specifically in my business anything other than the stress.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that a lot from entrepreneurs. You're not alone in all that. I interviewed the guy that started 1-800-GOT-JUNK. I know they're in Australia somewhere, but it's a like $100 million business now. He started as a teenager with $1,000. And he said he started it originally to pay his way through college. And he said the first year he like paid for college and had $1,500 left over. I think it was the late 80s, and he had those big, you don't remember this, cell phones were like the size of a brick.
I know, I do, because my first one was the late 90s, and it wasn't as big as that one, but I remember my dad had one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So and he said he was like taking these business courses, and his phone keeps going off because he's got a business he's running.
Right.
And he said to me, I had to make a decision. Like, I'm learning more by running this business than I am sitting in this classroom. I keep disrupting the class because my phone's going off. And here he is today. It's like, I saw he posted something the other day. It's just like they just missed getting to $1 billion in revenue.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I can see our time. I could actually stay here and do like 5 episodes with you, Gary, because I just love talking with you so much. Can we switch gears slightly? And I would love to share with you, which we did briefly before, my framework, and ask you which one either is your favorite or do you resonate with the most, and why? And let me know if you want me to pull it back up onto the screen.
No, I would say like the spirituality thing is interesting to me. That's kind of where I am right now. Um, as I said, like it's the human flourishing thing. I think there is a spiritual dimension, this idea that by solving problems for others, we empower ourselves, is a deeply spiritual. And I'm using that word, Deb,
Mm.
like I've said this in my talks, like that's not a moral thing. It's not a religious thing. It's biology. And the biology and spirituality are kind of the same thing in a lot of ways that I don't know, it's hard coded into us. So that's what I'm identifying with. And again, like the human flourishing part of entrepreneurship is really what I care about most.
I love that you use the word biology. It's interesting to me in all these years. I've never really thought of it that way. It's often been something that's been discussed in the form of a longing or a desire to be of service. But it makes sense when you say biology because
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
yeah, it makes sense to me.
We're
It
we're
really
not
does.
here to serve ourselves. I mean, the ancients wrote about this. Aristotle wrote about it. There's the, I think he, there's the pleasurable life where we seek pleasure,
Yeah.
and we all need pleasure. I'm not
Mm.
denying that, but like a lot of us get stuck there,
Yes.
right? And then he talked about the good life where we figure out how to use our virtues to enrich ourselves and our family. And that's the good life.
Yeah.
But the meaningful life happens when we figure out how to use our gifts in a way that contributes to something bigger than us.
Yeah.
And I just feel like like we're at this point in time when like the tools for being entrepreneurial are free or nearly free.
Hmm.
100 years ago, you needed to have millions of dollars. Now it's a cell phone. You have access to 2 billion people and almost all the world's knowledge. You have ChatGPT. Like, I think we're at this precipice. Like, the world looks very frightening
Hmm.
if you're looking at it through the lens of the past. But I think we're at a point where we can scale human flourishing.
I agree with you, and I feel like it's a little bit of that. It's a macro micro version of that emotional edge that I think we may have been talking about before we hit record. But when you're evolving, growing, moving into the next, version of yourself, this is very much my way of seeing things. I know actually what we're talking about. We're talking about imposter syndrome. And to me, that's the emotional edge. And I'm hopeful that as a species, that what's happening now on the planet is that we're meeting that emotional edge, which looks like chaos, fear, darkness, scarcity, etc. And I'm hopeful, and I kind of have to be hopeful to stay human and grounded and get through what we're getting through, that we're soon going to be moving through, whether it's a renaissance period, an evolution of inclusion, of respect, diversity, really understanding, which to me is something that I've had through my spiritual learnings, through life experiences, and actually delving into esoteric philosophy. But ultimately, Gary, we're all siblings. We're all connected, not just our family of origin, not just my culture that I grew up with, not just the school that I went to, not even just the place where I live, but ultimately every being, which I don't know if you had a chance to hear my talk in Boston and the practice I guided us through, but it's heart coherence, which is literally love and light on a frequency level to every being.
Mm,
And so to me,
yeah,
that is fingers crossed and heart open and everything else. That is where we're heading into in this next decade and beyond.
I agree. I agree. It's like it's an exciting period, and like what we've discovered in our work is that there is a vast reservoir of untapped entrepreneurial intention, capacity, desire in billions of people, most of whom will never start a business of their own in the traditional way.
Yes.
but where the world is going is like self-directed value creation.
Yes.
That's really.
And this leads me to our very last lucky question, which, Gary, it's what advice do you have for others who are creating a business or a life that serves both the world and their heart?
So that's a good question, Deb. And I don't want to use like, just platitudes. I think I'll tie my answer back to the self-determination theory, like the autonomy, the competency, and the related thing.
Yes.
Just reappropriate, some small percentage of your discretionary time and effort, and try to figure out how to make yourself useful to other humans on your own. That's it. And I'm trying to shy away from ideas like find your passion or all that. I think you have to iterate your way to the right venturer fit.
Yeah.
So you don't need to know what your passion is. Start cleaning gutters on the weekends. I don't care what it is. Like, start creating value on your own and see how exciting that is for you. See what speaks to your heart. Keep doing that.
Beautiful, beautiful sharing. Gary, is there anything else that is on your heart or mind that you would like to share with our listeners before we finish up?
I'll say this, just building on the comment I just said. I think of it like this, Deb, like your ability to make yourself useful to other humans is a source of power, limitless power. It's available to anyone. You don't need money. You don't need to be a creative genius. You don't need an invention. You don't need to drop out of school or quit your job or mortgage your house. You need to think differently and act. You need to start trying things. And the question I like to leave your listener with is like, what's preventing you from making yourself more useful to more people?
Mm-hmm. I was
That's
going
a
to say, it's
mindset.
such a good place to start and a good place
Yeah.
for us to end as well. It's powerful. Can you ask us again, what is preventing you from?
What is stopping you? What's preventing you from making yourself more useful to more people?
Such a beautiful question. Gary, we appreciate you so much. Thank you so dearly for your time, your energy, your expertise, your heart. I'm so grateful that we got to have this chat. And I hope that perhaps we can bring you back on another time for more chats as well.
Happy to do it, Deb. Thank you for the opportunity.
If something in today's episode resonated with you and you're ready for your next step, there are a few ways that we can work together. You can apply to join me inside the 12-month Business Build Mastermind, come along to the Ultimate Activation Live Workshop, book a VIP day, or access a free trial of my Monday Meditation and Prioritization online session. And if you'd like more personalised guidance, you can also book in for a 60-minute reading or audit. The best way to get in touch with me is to find me on Instagram at Deb_Zita, that's Zita, or comment on this episode.
The information provided on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered medical, health, or financial advice. Always consult with a qualified health professional or financial advisor before making any decisions related to your personal health or finances.